good evening, good morning, whatever the time is right now, where you are, because I'm on my way to Tottenham versus Watford, and it will be interesting, and I shall see you at full time. When I say full time, I mean when I got back. Basically, yeah, it'll be a fun one, and I'll talk about it when we get back. But what am I predicting? 2-0 Tottenham, unfortunately. I think that they could get the dub. Goals from Ali and probably Bergwijn. But let's hope it's 2-0 Watford. Goals from Dennis and Ismail Assar. But let's see. Let's see what happens. I don't really care how we do it, but if we can get something at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, then it'd be lovely.
Good afternoon and welcome to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, the world famous home of the Spurs. And please welcome after the pitch players and escorts presented to you by Couture Hernandez, as well as today's teams, our visitors Watford and the home team, Tottenham Hotspur. Starting tonight, so start with our visitors Watford. In goal, number 26, Daniel Blackman. Number 4, Etebo. Number 5, William Shrewsbury. Number 7, Joshua King. Number 11, Adam Sina. Number 15, Craig Cathcart. Number 19, Robert Actus Person, Lucius Sissoko. Number 25, Emmanuel Dennis. Number 31, Francisco Ciralta, and number 33, Gerard Kuka. And his Spurs lineup this afternoon. In goal, number 1, captain and new Spurs Premier League appearance record holder, Gameweek. Number 3, Sergio Reguilon. Number 25, Couture Hernandez. Number 6, Alison Sanchez. Number 15, Eric Dyer. Number 5, Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. Number 29, Oliver Skip. Number 20, Derek. Number 23, Stephen Bergwijn. Number 7, Julian Stock.
very close game. Full time, and it finished at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Spurs 1, Watford 0. Well, that was an experience. The first time I've ever been to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and I snuck in there as the Tottenham end. Basically, we got tickets because my uncle is a Spurs fan and he's not able to go to the game. So he lended the ticket so we could watch Watford play. Don't often go to many away games. But yeah, it was difficult because I had to restrain myself, of course, see Watford attack. But no, generally, Spurs weren't that amazing, to say the first half. Certainly, I thought both sides really even, and it was a really good encounter, end to end. Watford actually started really brightly, and actually Spurs were, the Spurs fans were groaning. They just didn't look on it, and Watford looked really up for it. I thought that in the middle of the park, Etebo looked absolutely brilliant. He was just so good at taking the ball off Spurs and just starting our attacks. He was really good at those transitions and finding those kind of little pockets of space to drive into and then win back the ball. He's such a great tackler of the ball, and he really did fill in that void that Will Hughes has seemed to have left. But with Couture coming in, Sissoko, he will only get better. So we've made some really good signings, I think. But generally, we had a good start to the game. Really early on, a great opportunity where I'm not sure who it was who had the shot, because from our seats it was quite far away, but it was a really good effort, and I think it was cleared off the line by either Tanganga or one of the Spurs defence, so that was really a nervy moment for them. But once they got through that nervy moment, Spurs kind of started to go into the game a little bit. Watford having a few chances in that first half, and Dennis looked so lively all game. I'm actually buzzing that I've got him in my fantasy team, because he's going to be so good to have going forward with some really good fixtures for Watford against Newcastle, Norwich, Wolves. So if we can put in performances like that against big teams, then hopefully we can really get the wins against the lesser teams. And it was a massive improvement. At the end of the day, we knew the Spurs game here would be a free hit. We knew it would likely be a loss, but we just wanted to see a response from that Brighton game, and it really was a better performance. And we were unlucky to not score a goal today. We had chances, but once again, we say this week in, week out with Watford. We've got the opportunities, we've got the creativity, and also the build-up. Some of the play today was really nice football, but at the end of the day, we weren't testing Lloris enough. We weren't getting enough of those shots on target, and that's what's cost us today. But Spurs were really, good enough in this game. They really didn't warrant anything more than, I'd say, a 1-0 win. But I think we really did frustrate Tottenham. Tottenham did miss a few chances, and they'll be kicking themselves. They didn't kind of kill it off earlier, but that did always leave Watford in the game very much contesting it, and it was an end-to-end clash. So, I'm very happy from a Watford point of view. We knew this would be a tough one, and Spurs, fair enough to you, 3 wins from the bounce, top of the table, but it's early days, and it's games against Wolves, Watford, and very poor on the day, Manchester City. So, don't get ahead of yourselves, Tottenham. But ultimately, you played well, you were solid. However, we also played well, and there's no undermining our performance today. We really did have to come out better from that Brighton game, and we just looked more hungry for it, really. So, in terms of individual players to review from that game, obviously after that chance that was cleared off the line or cleared away with a deflection, we also had a bit of a nervy moment for Watford when, from a free kick, Tottenham took a massive deflection in the second half, and Backman had to be really alert to make the save and palm it away. Backman made a string of fabulous saves. One of them, a shot from the right hand side across the box, and he just tipped it away from danger really well. And another where he had a really close range chance to deal with, and palmed it away really confidently. And in the first half as well, a bit of a scramble in the Tottenham box, and a shot came in from Spurs, and he did well to save it with his leg. So, Backman, he did well enough against a very good Tottenham team with Kane and they had to really earn their win. And it was a bit of a freak goal, to be fair. Whether Son Heung-min meant that, I don't know, but it just kind of was misjudged by the Watford defence, misjudged by, the goalkeeper, Daniel Bachmann. And I think it's unlucky because it goes through a body of players. But yeah, maybe he will be looking at himself for that. Had a bit of a mare there. But ultimately, it's gone in for the Heung-min Son goal. And, he's got a great record against Watford. So I could have predicted that, really. But it's not the best thing to see, obviously, because it's a goal 3 minutes before half-time. It's a bit of a, deflating one. But I think we knew we probably were going to go in the half-time interval, at least one down. But we did really well to stay in the game and, 0-0 in the second half. So it was really, really good to see how we responded to that goal, and also how, we just didn't really look like we were going to be blown away. Against Brighton, we were completely, in every sense of the word, the worst team. But here, we just seem to be up to the fight. And I don't know if that's whether we're playing Tottenham, and I just don't like this mentality. I know it's good to see us playing this mentality sometimes. But my point is, against these biggest teams, we can't just suddenly decide to turn up. And then against the smaller teams, we don't show that mentality. So we've got to be very determined in every game we play, especially the games we expect to win and get results from. But it's certainly a very positive thing to take from the performance. And our build-up play was just brilliant at times. But we've got to test Lloris more. We've got to get more shots on target. Some of our attempts, the free kick as well, after some good dribbling from Sarr and Dennis. The dribbling is good, but then when we get the free kick, we blaze it over. So, yeah, man of the match for me, it's got to be Etebo. Just such a classy performance, sweeping up in midfield. He was just so determined in his tackling, and as I mentioned before, really good in those transitions. So, Dennis playing on the left this time. Obviously, we handed Josh King his first Premier League start of the season after he got 90 minutes, or at least, mostly the Palace game. And he just struggled to influence the game. I know he's going to be better, but it's just about fitness with him. And I just don't think he was properly in the game. But it's about getting used to this system. He's a new player. We know he's got a lot of quality, established in the Premier League with Bournemouth. But today just wasn't his day. And he struggled to kind of hold up the ball, struggled to, be that kind of classic number 9. We've seen with years gone by, we play long balls up to Deeney, he wins them and flicks them on. And King was trying to do that at points today, but it just wasn't quite working. And when he was trying to link up with with Sarr and Dennis, he just couldn't quite, get the kind of proximity to them. He couldn't quite link up with them every single time. So it was a bit of a disjointed stuff from Josh King, but, he's doing what he can. I'm sure he'll improve. And also, I thought that Dennis was an interesting one, looking really lively. Like against Brighton, yeah, Dennis wasn't that much of a impact, but against Villa and against Spurs today, I thought he just looked really hungry and really, really lively. He's got great work rate, Emmanuel Dennis, and playing on the left is an interesting thing. Of course, he did do that a little bit for Club Brugge, but with Josh King starting, and it's fine if we start another forward. We could start Ashley Fletcher if he starts getting into form, but I don't know whether King is just not ready for it, and Dennis might be better playing through the middle. But he still was, regardless of the change in position, looking really good today, and he was just really interesting to watch. That dynamic, he played really well. He just showed that aggression, showed that flair and ability and confidence to take on the Tottenham fullbacks and to take basically Spurs down a notch. And what I mean by that is it caused them defensive issues, and actually it started to get the Spurs fans frustrated, because then actually Dennis kind of gave us that little bit of X factor that had them starting to worry in points in the game. And then moving on to Couture Hernandez, he obviously came on for Joshua King, who, as I said, just really struggled to get his foothold in the game. But Couture Hernandez, he's that kind of flair player that we like. I would have liked to see him start, but actually, when you think about it, he's probably a better player as an impact sub, and he made another impact again today. Came on, gave us a little bit more zip going forward, and had that header, and I think it was blocked by one of the Watford attackers, or if not another Spurs defender, and then also had a chance where it was a really good ball in actually from Ismail Assar, I think, and in the air it was an acrobatic effort from a bicycle kick that he probably would never have got, but fair enough for going for that. So yeah, Couture is certainly a fan's favourite, and he certainly looks a great talent, but just maybe didn't have quite enough chances in the game to influence it. And then obviously the start of the game was a bit of a nervy moment. Daniel Bachmann playing out from the back again. I just don't like to see it, especially when we got William Troost-Ekong, who we know his distribution is not his strength. But Bachmann fortunately didn't pay for it because he gave it away to Harry Kane, and I think Spurs could have easily switched the ball a bit quicker, but I just don't think they were quite switched on as much as they could have been. So we got away with that a little bit, but generally Bachmann had a fantastic day today, and I think the Spurs were good enough for the win, but Watford can be very proud of the way that they stayed in the game and just kind of had the threat going forward. They had that break with Sarr and Dennis, once again a great combination, but it was just not quite there for Watford today, but very close. And also Moussa Sissoko got a great reception from the Tottenham fans, which is really good to see. The same thing for Danny Rose at the end of the game, and Rose didn't come on because Messina played. Messina was all right in the game. I thought he would really struggle against the pace of Bergwijn, but actually he wasn't too bad. He just looked a little bit labourish sometimes. His passing was quite slow, but ultimately, Messina did his job, I guess, as much as he can do. He just didn't really offer us any attacking threat, but I guess that's what Kiko Femenia can do when he comes back from injury. So yeah, there is a bit of a problem there, because on the flanks you kind of want someone like Femenia or Danny Rose to support, one of Ken Sema or Emmanuel Dennis, but it just wasn't to be. Messina was all right, but he was bang average. But going back to the ex-Tottenham boys though, Sissoko, he had his first game today, a lot of pressure on it, of course, and he would have wanted to play well, and I think he started the game all right, but he just struggled to influence it, didn't he? He looks like an absolute class player. He's got so much potential for this Watford team, and there's no doubting, he's an amazing signing from Watford, for Watford, because, the absolute beast of a man, that he's got so much in the tank. He's got such great experience with France and great experience with Tottenham. He's a fantastic player for them in his time, and Champions League team of the season not too long ago. So he certainly looks a great player, but yeah, just struggled to kind of make his mark really, and got booked a little bit sloppy, but he's certainly willing to put the hard yards in, and looks like a really strong and confident player to kind of fill that Will Hughes void. So I'm happy about him. We got a serious player there. But moving on, Kuszka. Now Kuszka, I was absolutely buzzing to see him back. It was a 50-50 call. We had a bit of a doubt to see him start, but we definitely missed him against Brighton. And there was an argument to say, should we play Etebo, Cleverley and Kuszka? But we didn't start with Cleverley, and I think that was actually a better call from the manager, Xisco Munoz. And I think Kuszka was actually decent, but once again, not quite up to the standard as someone like in the midfield Etebo was. But you definitely say that Kuszka was standard enough. He didn't necessarily show all those qualities that we know he can do, but he did what he needed to do at the end of the day. And it wasn't as good as the Villa performance, because we all knew that he was fantastic in that game, but he certainly was decent enough, and not as poor as Loaiza did play against Brighton. So yeah, he's going to come back from injury. Obviously he's going to have a bit more time to adjust, but certainly looks a fantastic player for now. Ken Sema was an unused substitute, which is a bit of a shame in my opinion, because I thought he could have given us that different dynamic late on in the game when we were pushing for an equaliser. I say pushing, we had a few set pieces, a few corners in the 84th minute and stuff like that, but Ken Sema, apologies, my cat is following me, don't know why. Ken Sema, could have given us that pace that we needed. He's great at taking on players, getting to the byline, and that probably would have given Spurs something to think about. I think Reguilon played well enough, but I think he struggled up against Sarr, who often got to the byline and got past the fullback, even if Sarr didn't really show enough quality today, and was struggling sometimes to get the man in the box. But Sema probably could have done that a little bit better. Apologies for the cat. Let me just pass past her. Go away. Get off. Right. Moving on to Sarr. I like to think that he was a threat all day. He wasn't necessarily all day, but he was a decent player enough for today. He's very good at taking on the fullbacks. Like I said, the relationship with Dennis and Sarr is going to be so strong. It's going to keep on developing. and hopefully it'll be the next Dini and Igalo. But they seem to be on the same wavelength. He seems to just so much pace with Ismail Assar. Can you just go away, please? Oh my gosh. But yeah, not a great game from Assar. He has had better. But once he'd beaten the fullback, you know, there just wasn't enough bodies in the box. And if there were, then the delivery would not necessarily be perfect. But he didn't have many chances of crossing it today. He's often looking for the foul, Sarr, and that is one part of his game he needs to improve. Just try and stay on his feet a little bit more. But, you know, he's absolutely our main attacker, and he still had a very decent enough performance. Daniel Bachmann, I love him. What a legend. What a great amount of saves he made in that game. Obviously, to concede again is a shame. It's not too bad, 5 goals in the first 3 games, but yeah, it's an improvement from the defensive side of things from that Brighton game, and Bachmann will be confident enough. Obviously Foster with a slight injury, but he'll be back soon to challenge Bachmann for that number 1 spot. Ciarauta, I thought, looked composed coming back in. He didn't have a lot to do, and neither did Troost-Ekong really, in the respect that they didn't either look really amazing or that shaky, because as I said, Spurs were decent enough, but they didn't create loads of chances. It was just that they were wasting a lot of them, and you know, it was a lot of frustration early on for Spurs, but they found their way and they got their goal in the 42nd minute from that curling free kick that just went through everyone from Son Heung-min, which was, yeah, a bit of a shame to concede before half-time. But I think Messina did look a bit slow on the ball, and I think Spurs, they did miss some big chances, but you kind of thought it's written in the stars now for Watford to take advantage of that, to punish them, but it just wasn't quite there today. And as I mentioned, very good, encouraging performance, but, you know, we could have nicked something. I don't think Spurs were, you know, defensively that bad. Lloris, you know, didn't have a lot to do, so because of that he looked pretty comfortable, but he could have had more to deal with if we just had more shots on target. So I think Spurs didn't deserve much more than a 1-0, and I think Watford can be very happy from that. It's just a shame about Bachmann, really. They misjudged the flight of the ball, but yeah, the Cathcart injury as well was a shame. He looked quite composed before going off, and Ngakia came on. I was a bit scared about that up against Son, but he looked quite good going forward. He offers that, you know, versatility, and he's still a very great young player. And I thought he would struggle up against that kind of pace. But luckily, Spurs were pretty wasteful in the second half. They weren't as strong in the first half. Well, actually, I'd say they're stronger in the second half than the first half, because the first half was quite even. But Spurs had more shots on target. And ultimately, I think Ngakia is still going to be a great player. He's that kind of right back that fits in there nicely ahead of Cathcart, who's more of a makeshift centre-back. But yeah, it's a shame to see Cathcart go off. And ultimately, there was that chance in the first half as well, where Watford kind of just started to build the attacks more. And the chance has skipped my mind. But in the second half, there was that nice little way where Sarr gets down the byline, sends it in, and it was a scramble across, and Lloris kind of just fumbled it away. The ball was dragged back, and we just couldn't get the power on the shot. But still, another shot on target, another chance that we had, and cleverly came on for Moussa Sissoko, who got booked, as we mentioned. A good substitution just to preserve him a little bit longer. And cleverly didn't do a lot. He didn't have a lot of time to do much, and he challenged for a header with Hugo Lloris, but yeah, nothing came of it. So very good performance in all from Watford. Obviously, it's a shame to have 2 defeats on the bounce. It's a shame to not deny Spurs from going top of the league, but no, fair enough then. They're not looking amazing, but they're winning ugly right now, and that's important. So yeah, Watford should be confident, but we need to try and get those goals now, and I think the performance does give us something to build on.